Finding the right pace. And it takes time to find that right pace, but having a clear view of where it is that you want to be.
Your journey was not linear, but always moving forward. And I think that for folks to hear and to see where you are now,
We often speak a lot about social injustice or social inequality, but the conversation around wealth inequality never really rises to the surface, right?
teaching young people those skills and helping them understand that they can make that difference, that they can be the difference. I mean, phenomenal.
If I've only ever grew up right here, all I ever saw was right here, what am I going to dream about?
Right here.
So we have to start putting these young people in places where they can expand their horizons so they can dream bigger.
Welcome. My name is RJ McMahon. I'm the CEO of Oak Leyden, and we work with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, adults and little kiddos. And I'm excited to welcome Quentin Harris, a gentleman I've known for about 10 years now, I think. It's going to be a really interesting conversation. And welcome, Q.
Man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, just kind of curious. Let's let the folks know about kind of your journey, right? And you've been. I've loved being kind of a partner to some degree in the journey. Really, I'm in the back seat. I'm not riding shotgun, but it's just been fun to watch kind of your development and how you got here. And, I think of all the folks I know, you've got a lot of plates spinning. So how do you keep it all going? And how did you get here? And then how do you keep it all going?
Oh, no. Well, thanks for that. And, when I think about it, finding the right pace. And it takes time to find that right pace, but having a clear view of where it is that you want to be with your life. I think that, when I was a young kid, I was very thoughtful about like, hey, this is the kind of life that I want to have. Everybody might as a kid like, oh, I want to grow up and be rich, right? But I think as you start to get older and you start to kind of understand, okay, this is what, high school is like. I'm going to college now. And I'm like, these are the opportunities that I'm going to be able to get into. And you start becoming passionate about certain things. I was really able to focus in on my purpose and vision. And that got really, really clear for me in my mid to later 20s. And I realized like, hey, you have a gift to not only support young people, but the community. And then once you realize what your purpose is, it's like, okay, well, now I got to create a plan around this, right? And so that
you don't just start, you don't just jump. You actually created a plan.
Listen, it's
What's
always ongoing, and you're constantly revising, you're constantly rethinking it. But I think when I got to that point, it really became a downhill journey for me. Even with the speed bumps along the way, it still was like, you know what? I know where I'm headed, and it started to really become natural. So, I think that kind of led me to where I am, which I can kind of dive into.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious because, you're not, again, from the cheap seats, right? Your journey was not linear, right? You kind of went a little bit right, came back left, went back right, but always moving forward. And I think that for folks to hear and to see kind of where you are now, it's really fun to see kind of that kind of ebb and flow back and forth. So how did you navigate those waters?
It started early. And I got to give the credit to my mom, honestly. She was very, very specific about certain things with school. And she saw that I wasn't getting them. She would make sure that she was the person who was making sure I got that accommodation, right? And so it really started with problem solving. 6th grade. Hated problem solving. And she was homeschooling me at one point. And she was like, we're not touching any other subject until you wrap your mind around word problems. Simply word problems. And so, from the time we started school to the end of the day, word problems.
Wow.
Word problems. Until she had the mastery down. Then we started, okay, now we go back to reading all these other things. But she was like, math will be the one thing that will allow you to navigate life more than anything else. Of course, you have to have comprehension and read, but you have to know this math. You have to know this problem solving. And so at the time as a kid, I was like, geez, like, I mean, it was grueling, RJ. It was grueling. I mean, it was times when she would leave me at that table past school hours. It'd be 5, 6 o'clock. We're serving dinner, and she's, stay there.
Stay there. Love it. Now, what were your siblings doing at this point?
Oh, they're running around. They're having a good time. The day's over with for them. Here I am still at the table.
Are they giving you grief?
Problems. Oh, absolutely. You know, the coming in the room unneeded.
Right.
You don't need to be here. Why are you here?
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yep. And so that was the start for me.
That's so great. What a phenomenal foundation, right? And I love that your mom was just all in and all over it, right? And not just do this, we're doing this together, right? And I think that's what you certainly carry forward in your day-to-day. Like, you're not just putting kids kind of in a boat and pushing them off. You're in the boat with them and navigating those waters. So talk a little bit about your current role at the Academy Group.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the Academy Group, I've been there just over 7 years now.
Wow.
I serve in the role of Director of Elementary Programs. So I oversee the entry of the young people. We do a lottery program. And so essentially kids apply, they're lotteried in. We take kids from the greater Chicagoland area. We're off in other regions as well. But essentially from the time that they come in all the way through them getting ready to go to high school, I see that path for them at the Academy Group.
That's so great. You want to take just a minute or a couple minutes and talk about the Academy Group and just, you know, what are you doing? Like, how are you changing lives? Because you guys are really changing lives. You're impacting lives, families, communities, neighborhoods. I mean, it's really phenomenal to see.
So I'll put it similarly to how our CEO does, Dr. Gregory Jones. So when you think about communities, we often speak a lot about social injustice or social inequality. But the conversation around wealth inequality never really rises to the surface, right? And so if you're able to solve the wealth crisis, you're able to kind of check off a lot of those other buckets all at one time. And so that's essentially what the Academy Group is sourced with doing, is reaching out to young people from underserved communities across the city and across the country. No matter what group or population that you are with, poverty infects everyone. And so that's what we're here to solve, the wealth inequality crisis.
That's so great. And teaching young people those skills and helping them understand that they can make that difference, that they can be the difference. I mean, phenomenal. And you see that growth year over year over year. So talk a little bit about that, because you've been doing it now 7 years. So you've, think about those early kids that are now taking their journey forward into the world.
It's a different level of fulfillment. I come from a teaching background. I spent 12 years in education prior to coming over to the Academy Group. And, as an educator, God bless them, they do so much work, but, you get a group of kids in, let's say if you're a 5th grade teacher, right? That's a tough year. And you're a 5th grade teacher, you get a group of kids, they're there roughly 180, 190 days, and then you ship them off to the next teacher, and then you get a new group. And, they come in and, every once in a while you get afforded the privilege of folks coming back to the school like, oh my God, you've gotten older. But you never really get to see the full fruit of your work. Right.
And you're planting seeds, right? And you don't know how it's going to turn out, right?
Don't know. And so, you're over time, you may be able to catch up with some of those. But at the Academy Group, being there 7 years, the 4th graders that I started with, they're going into their junior year. They're in their junior year now.
Wow.
And so being able to see that development time over time, outside of their parents and their teachers, maybe family members who they see fairly often, I've probably had the most touch points with those young people over these 7 years. And so the trust that is afforded is from them as well as the families. You're really able to double down on things, and the buy-in is there. It's a partnership.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I've really come to enjoy about the work, is it goes just beyond me delivering a lesson. This is a life partnership that we're a part of here.
Totally. And so when you think about those early days, right? And the buy-in is so huge, right? And And for you and the Academy Group, you need buy-in on so many levels. You need buy-in from the families. You need buy-in from the students, right? And how did those early hurdles, how did they kind of develop, and then how have you addressed them over time? Because again, you guys just keep getting better and better.
I think the first part is messaging. You early on, once I realized that I was on to something probably within my first year to year and a half. Like, I think I've hit the jackpot with this one here. And you realize that, as we call it, the golden ticket, it's like, I got this golden ticket here, and you have to figure out your messaging, your marketing, right? And I think early on we knew we had something, but how do we position that in front of families? Then we realized, like, you know what? We just got to do the work. Our marketing can be grade A, but like there has to be some proof to concept here. Like we have to, get in the weeds and just get the job done.
Right.
Of course, everyone was impacted in some form or fashion with the pandemic.
Right.
And so, we were founded 2017. So 3 years in, we're getting faced with that. But
just when you're hitting your stride,
just when
right?
we're hitting our stride, right?
And then, bam,
we're supposed to expand, and that kind of thwarted
Whoa,
everything.
right?
And
yeah.
So,
put the brakes on a little bit there, right?
Exactly. And so I think once we got back into it, we were consistent. In feedback, not just from internally, but from those families that we were serving, from partners, from other stakeholders, getting that and implementing it year in and year out. We found ourselves in a place where the message kind of took a life of its own.
That's so interesting. So in those early days and really kind of throughout, right? And when you keep getting that feedback, was there resistance on the team? Like, where's this coming from? Or gosh, this is really important. Sometimes there's that the founder mentality, right? Mm-hmm. The ownership, like, no, I created this. I know better than whoever this person is.
Yep. It was a little bit of both. I think we have a very, from when you think about our team, everyone is very future forward thinking, innovative, and so there's always that. That you're going to need some level of feedback. I think what makes it somewhat tough is in startup phase. Mm-hmm. My leader always says the first time you do something is always going to be the worst time you do it, right? And I've come to learn, like, I look back at the work that I've done. I'm like, yeah, that was the worst time, right? And I'm like, man, I've gotten so much better, but it doesn't mean it was bad.
No, it's just better.
It's just better.
Right, exactly. Right. And I think we all learn, and I think that's the benefit, especially for you guys. Like we all want to be lifelong learners, right? And so how do we accomplish that? And what does that look like for the students? But really, and I love the kind of the way that you just shined a light on, the team needs to keep learning, right? And not be defensive and know that, yeah, we can get better, right? And none of us are finished products, for crying out loud. So we got to keep getting better.
Yep. And that's you have to realize that in startup culture. And I think those of us who have been here since that time, we got that very quickly. Like, hey, it's startup. You're going from building something from scratch, then systematizing it, then refining the system, right? And so that the work never ends in that sense.
Right.
Like there's always going to be something new to do. Even
so
if
good.
There's a bolt to tighten up.
Right, absolutely. And I remember that there was a great story about the early days of Pixar, and the team would come together, and it was that they I think they termed it the ugly baby syndrome or something along those lines. That, you know what, my baby's always the best looking, right? And they had to really create this culture that, you know what, no, we've all got ugly babies. And we're going to call each other out, and it's going to be okay. And we're going to get better, and we'll have better products. We'll have better deliverables, better outcomes if we can all get on that same page. And it's so important to not kind of grab too tight and not feel like, no, this is my baby, and it's the best baby in the,
Yep. And I think one of the things that I have learned and I push for this outside of, I talk to my son about this all the time. He'll be like, Dad, I did good at school today. So what? Like that is the expectation.
Right.
We don't celebrate the expectation. Excellence is always going to be the expectation. And that idea of perfectionism, like let's not push for that, let's push for excellence. So even if something does not go the way that you wanted the first time, did we do it excellently? Right? Was there excellence involved? What can we pull from? And then we refine it and we do it excellent again. And those things will continue to build. It'll just start to become a part of the process after a while.
I love that. And I love the expectation part, right? And there's so many white papers about expectations in underserved communities and how we can't lower our expectations. In fact, we've got to increase and raise up those expectations, because if we put it out there, kids, adults, all of us can attain those if we know where it is. But if we think it's right here, we can do that falling out of bed, for crying out loud.
Yep. And so it's about preparing these young people to dream. I often say, we talked about, this intersection here. If I've only ever grew up right here and all I ever saw was right here, what am I going to dream about?
Right
here.
Right here.
So we have to start putting these young people in places where they can expand their horizons so they can dream bigger. And, I ask a kid, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
And they'll tell me, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, how did you land there? Tell me, what was your process?
Right.
And then now it's time to expose you to what comes after.
Right.
Did you know that their boss is this? Yeah, did you know that? This is what they do. Did you know that person's boss is this?
Right.
Oh, really, man? Let's look at what they do. Now it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was there.
Right.
I could dream a little bit bigger.
Right. You're creating a roadmap for these folks, right? And I think that where the impact for the Academy Group and all of the work that you're doing, it's like the old days when when I asked my son, what do you want to be? And I want to play in the NBA, of course, right? But he was very forward thinking and knew that he'd need a career afterwards, so he wanted to be an architect. He's neither of those now, but it's the idea of we have to show them, right? And I in an early life many moons ago, I remember talking with students and the idea that someone wanted to be a cardiologist, and coming from an underserved community, it was almost as if they were saying, I want to be in the NBA, right? And without having role models, without seeing a roadmap of how to get there, we're just doing a disservice. So you guys are creating that and helping them dream, but it's not an untenable dream. It's really within their grasp, right? If you just keep working and doing and excelling day in and day out, perfect is not the answer, right? But if we can keep going, that's going to move the needle so far for these young people.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
That's so great. That's so great. So talk a little bit about your summer program. I love what you guys do. So, the Academy Group you're doing after school, you're doing weekends, right? And then the summer program. I love, and you've created this. Talk about your baby. This is your baby, right? And so talk about how you're kind of bringing in those experiential pieces, both in the neighborhood and obviously, across the sea.
Yeah. So we have two core programmatic experiences for the young people, that being the summer program, 4-week program. It immerses them into business challenges, advising, which there's no other organization that I know of that provides advising to young people around academics and SEL starting at 4th grade. Right?
So great.
And so from there, also enrichment. And so this is about getting them hands-on with things that they may not have access to in school. So this summer, we had kids were learning how to play violin. We did also sewing, pulled out those good old sewing machines, right? And they learned the basics and concepts of sewing. Spray paint art. We had an organization called Young Rembrandts come down, just teach kids the basics of design and drawing. And so it's about tapping in and helping kids discover there's an underlying talent here that I had no idea about. So we're constantly bringing in new enrichments. We've done everything from ceramics, mosaic art, right? We bring in different types of
that
athletics.
Exposure is amazing, isn't it? Yep. And did you see kind of those moments with the kids, right? Like, oh my gosh, I love this, right?
Absolutely. And then there is the fitness component, right? Because if I'm not
mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and soul.
So we also incorporate that during the summertime. We added an academic block. So this year we did literary explorers, doing a different turn on the book report, right?
Awesome.
So kids did puppet shows around books that they were reading.
How
you know
great.
What I'm saying, and recreated their stories. We partnered with Oaks Park's very own Mathnasium, Jana Frank. She came out and she did some work with us around just math, helping kids get ready for the school year
So
to help
good.
prevent that summer slide.
Right.
And so then science, there is often a stipulation and a stereotype around like science not being fun, right?
Right.
But science is in everything that we do.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, even this here, what we're doing, there's science behind, all this, the Bluetooth and the wiring. And so,
Right.
like, helping kids understand, like, hey, this is very important. It can be fun,
Right, and it's applicable.
It's
It's
very
applicable, right? Maybe not today,
Yep.
but you're going to see it. You're going to experience it,
You're gonna
right?
experience it at some point. It's gonna impact you in a variety of ways.
Better be ready
And
for
so
it.
Better
right?
be ready. And so the idea here is to start building a profile for these young people. And one of the things that I didn't get into is like some of the org goals, which is we want all of our young people to get into the industry with first strong jobs. We talked about that wealth piece, wealth inequality.
Right.
And so the mission is to push these young people on a path to wealth attainment to attain generational wealth. So you can't do that if you're starting off in debt, right?
Absolutely.
And so the idea is this is a 14-year journey that young people graduate from college. The Academy Group will underwrite whatever is remaining on those college dues.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing is what if we are able to create a profile for a young person that allows them to be able to attain that college education without them needing us to pay for it? And so better to invest that money on the front end. What if I could spend, $25,000 on a kid's summer over 7 years versus that $100,000 tab from a major institution per year? Right. And so it makes the child very, very, their profile very elite.
Right.
And so,
a differentiator.
Yeah, very much a differentiator. And so the idea is that, within the next decade, the Academy Group will sit along with some of those elite, fraternities and other institutions where it's like, the Posse Awards, the Dan Murphy scholarships.
Exactly.
Where it's like, oh, you're a AG scholar? Oh, that's going to speak very high for your profile.
Right? Absolutely. Yep. Oh my gosh. Talk about getting them on a radar that, again, was nowhere near where they were back in the day, right? And just that's just so phenomenal, right? And so talk a little bit about so the work you're doing. How could you not be engaged with this work, right? And clearly there are municipalities and school districts that want the Academy Group. So talk a little bit about it. I know you've been on the road a lot this past summer, right?
Yes.
Taking the show on the road, educating groups of civic leaders, right? Business leaders about the impact you're making. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So we just actually, we're getting ready for our new recruitment season. And so recruitment always opens up right around September time and it runs through the early parts of spring, late winter. And it's lottery based. We do take young members. The majority come in as rising fourth graders. But we do accept waitlist applications up to 8th grade.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
So if anybody drops, then a spot will open?
And
gotcha.
so once we've noticed
Does
that
anybody drop?
Your attrition rate past 8th grade is extremely low.
Right.
And so we have not let anyone into high school for quite some time in Chicago. We have backfilled some seats from 4th through 8th. But essentially, once you kind of are locked in at that point, we typically see the kids are with us throughout the duration of their membership, which is, once you become alum, then you just start giving back.
Right.
But essentially, yes, we are branching out. We're currently in Detroit. We're currently in Boston and LA.
So good.
In those markets, we start with the recruiting at a high school level. And so from there, we do rising seniors, and then we come back to rising sophomores, and then we kind of backfill we backwards map.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We find that in other markets, it's a lot easier to get families on board at the high school level versus the younger kids when you're not there in the city full time.
Well, and you're not, and you're, I mean, the immediacy of the next step isn't there as a 4th or 5th grade family, right? Like, right. But in high school, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah. How are we going to get this young person, this family member, this child to the next step, right? And you guys can demonstrate that. You got that in your back pocket. Like,
Yep.
here's what we do.
Yeah, we are pushing strong there, and so the recruitment has pretty much taken a life of its own. Like,
It's great.
Word of mouth is always going to be your top marketing.
Yep,
And
yep.
with the work, the application count over the last 4 years have practically doubled almost.
No.
So about 4
gosh.
years ago, we were like in the 160s. From there, we jumped to just over 300.
Wow.
From 300, we jumped to 654. And then from 654 to this past year, we're at 1,168 applications.
For how many spots?
We gave 112 seats
Wow.
for this past year.
Almost 10 to 1.
It's almost 10 to 1.
Wow.
And so the goal for this year is 1,400 applications. It opened September 1. We're already at 200. So
Amazing.
so it's taking a life of its own.
Absolutely. And I remember you were telling me about your meeting in Detroit, and was it the mayor that basically invited you guys to come in, right?
Yep. So Detroit is one of those cities, and so we've been doing a lot of work with their public school system there. We're fully launched. We're in pilot mode, but fully launched there. And as of recent, we've had interest from Charlotte.
Wow.
And then there's also interest from Jacksonville and Denver. But Charlotte proactively reached out.
Wow.
And so they've been in contacts with our executive team.
It's so great. I mean, literally coast to coast. Boston, LA, Midwest, now you're going Southeast. I mean, just really phenomenal, right? So how is the team? Like, I can imagine people got to be a little puffy chested, right? Like, we're getting stuff done here.
Yeah. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of pride amongst the team. And I feel like we have found our balance in being able to rep the work that we've been able to do as an organization, even individually. Our organization is very big about, like you talked about, continue learning and being learners for life. And so, I have an executive coach. One of my colleagues who I've been there with, we started the same day 7 years ago. She just got accepted as a Surge Institute fellow.
Awesome.
And so she'll be with the Surge Institute going into this year's cohort. So very excited for her to bring that learning back.
Absolutely.
And another colleague just wrapped up last year a fellowship with Chicago, where they take them out to Paris. And so the org is very, very intentional about making sure that its leaders is also continuing to be able to get access and learn, so we can bring this learning back to our young people.
Totally. It's that investment, right? And the Academy Group is investing at every level for their team, for the individual, the kiddos that they support. I mean, it's really amazing, right? And well done. Well done. I can remember when you were 7 years ago, right? When you were like,
started,
exactly. To your point earlier, like, I think I got something here. Like, because it just allowed you to take what you were doing in the classroom and the level of engagement that you have and just who you are, and just kind of blow it up. And now you can sprinkle Q all over, right? And really just deepen that impact for so many kids and families. It's got to make you feel good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember when I read the job description and the idea and the prospect of being able to be autonomous and creative with the budget for young people.
Wait, what?
I was like, what is this?
Nobody does that.
Right. I was like, I have to apply. So I remember like the lesson that I did, and for they wanted you to do something unschooly, or like, hey, we want you to present a typical lesson that would be presented in the classroom, but make it innovative.
Yeah.
Like, switch it up,
Jazz it up a little.
And so I remember the lesson that I brought in, and what I did was I used sports as a means of doing rapid math calculations. I think
That's right. I did. Absolutely.
The interview, but essentially like combining tennis, football, basketball, and calling out different methods of scoring, whether it's touchdown or whether it's an ace in tennis, whether it's a field goal, and the kids do rapid calculations. And so we had the football, we had the basketball, and kids were able to throw, and they're adding these numbers up, and it was a very innovative math class, and they had fun. But at the same time, they're practicing rapid calculations, which in turns helps that processing.
Right? Exactly. You're processing, your decision making. You're in the moment, right? And you're present. So great. I remember that. That's so awesome. I can't believe that was 7 years ago, by the way. Right?
A little bit over now.
Yeah, but at least neither of us had hair back then either, right?
Yeah, neither did we. That was right around the time we met. It's been a decade going here.
Exactly. So one would think that I'm sure our listeners are thinking, "Wow, Q's got a full plate," but yet you have time to do other things. So how else are you fed? And it's a very open-ended question, but I know you continue to talk about lifelong learning, but lifelong experiential pieces, and it's just fun to see. All right, where's entrepreneurial Q these days, right? And what else are you doing?
Yeah, so from the entrepreneurial standpoint, again, credit to both my mom and dad came, very entrepreneurial background from, being landlords. We had tenants. And so from a very young age, I watched my mom go take care of the building. And it was all, we got to go handle this at the building, and the tenants would stop by and drop off their rent. This was before the days of Zelle when a check had to be dropped off at the house, right? And so you saw that. My dad was a journeyman's painter. He worked full-time at United Airlines.
Okay.
He was a cabin service supervisor, but then he worked as a journeyman trade, for painting. And so he taught me that trade at a very, very early age. My mom was a seamstress. She sewed for weddings. And so that was something that I was like, man, at an early age, I saw them, working their typical 9-to-5s, but have a different source of income coming in.
Right.
You fast forward, as a teen, I'll pick up little small jobs. If I wasn't playing ball, I had an open weekend. I had the reputation of my dad, like, oh,
right.
yeah, well, get the young Harris to do it. And so I would pop out and, do paint gigs here and there. And I was always creative. And so as I started to kind of find my different niches, I had different entrepreneurial efforts that I would, kind of try out and see where it took. And not all of them stuck, but I was learning the ins and outs of essentially like, hey, this is what it looks like to own a business or operate a business.
Right.
It wasn't until about 2017, 2018 that I found the thing that stuck. And it was right around the time I started with AG.
Right.
All this talk about entrepreneurship and kind of hit me like, I can't be in front of these kids talking about being an entrepreneur.
Right, and not have a lived experience.
And I don't have that, that full.
Right.
It was like just different efforts, right? And so that's when I jumped into the Turo business. And I was looking for ways. I had just paid off my first car and had that new car itch. I always loved new cars. And I'm like, I don't want to spend money on this new car. And
right.
I'm like,
how can I do this? Right.
Like, it's got to be a way out here. Somebody's doing it. And so I was Googling, and Turo popped up. And I'm like, this makes sense. And I knew somebody at the time who was doing it. And I reached out like, hey, man, Turo popped up. Like, how's it been working? Gave me their feedback. And so one of the things, and I'm going to pause here to say, you have to, in order to get to where you want to go, you have to be willing to do the work yourself sometimes.
Right.
Nobody's going to hand it to you.
No.
And so I spent, time clicking on YouTube videos, listening to all of these different hosts. I probably spent 15 to 20 hours just watching videos of all these. What is the worst that can happen? What's the worst happening on Turo?
Right.
Look at the success stories, look at the stories that didn't go well. And I assessed the worst, assessed the best, and I'm like, I think I can do this thing. So I launched out into the deep. I started it. That was 7 years ago.
And you were hustling in those days.
I was hustling.
You were hustling, right? I can remember. You're like, all right, well, I can't stay for the full ball session, right?
Yeah.
So I got to go. I got to drop this car off at Midway. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And
I got to be out by 6:30. You were doing that all the time.
All the time. And I had to, essentially, I started there. That was 2018. And, of course, the pandemic thwarted it a little bit. But then there was the opportunity of late 2020. Turo was like, we're having an influx. Nobody was flying.
Right.
Everybody was grounded. People wanted to drive. They felt safer. And it was like, do you have more cars? And I had kind of took a break a little bit. And
you guys came out gangbusters.
Yep. I acquired my mom's car. She was going through an illness and she couldn't drive. So I'm like, Mom, I'll pay the note. We'll split the profits. At that time, I had a newer car. And so I went and bought an older car so I could put the newer cars on the platform.
Right.
And by early 2021, I realized I was onto something. And that's when I went and spoke to my brother, my best friend from high school. They were the perfect business partners to combine up with. We launched an official LLC. And we didn't look back since then. I mean, we went from the 3 cars that I had to 30 cars in 20 months.
Crazy.
And so it blew up, and it was kind of like, whoa.
Right.
And it was, it was just kind of like, all I did was be consistent.
Right, right.
You
But
know?
but it was that early work that you did, right? That groundwork. You built the foundation, and it allowed you to just truly build something that was special and unique. And again, you guys didn't just have Hondas. You guys had some pretty sweet rides.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you talk about going from a place to where I remember I used to say, man, Porsche was my dream car, right? And I used to think about how unattainable I felt like it was. I'm like, man, she's got 6 figures, man. And at the end of that first year of like when we like launched, it was like I remember my partner calling me and was like, hey man, I'm looking at this Porsche and I'm like, get out of here. I'm like, we can't do a Porsche yet. And he's like, I don't know these EV deals, man. And he was like, I think we might be onto something. And so I remember us being in that dealership, couldn't believe it. I remember they were like, we got approved for it. And I was like,
What?
are we really about to pull off?
Are we doing this?
With this brand new, at the time, it was December 21, brand new 22 Taycan. Only the third that had been delivered to the Chicago area. And they're like, we've only sold 2 of these so far. It's like, this is the third one. And we had the third Taycan in Chicago. And I was just blown away.
Right.
I mean, like, at that point, like, it kind of was like, you got to dream bigger, man.
Right.
Like, this was your dream car. You knocked this out.
How do we do that, right?
I'm like, man, I got to start. I was like, man, okay.
All right.
And so,
let's get a Benz. Let's go a Range Rover. Let's go. Going. Right. Exactly.
And so that's what we did. And I mean, before you know it, we had the 3 Teslas, we had Wranglers, we had the GT43.
Exactly.
And what it did do, though, is it taught us another facet of our business. And so we quickly found that the luxury cars, while they were attainable, they weren't sustainable. And
so interesting, right?
It was attainable.
2 different things.
It wasn't sustainable.
Right.
And so because your common commuter is not looking for a Porsche to fly in town for a couple of days. So we found a lot of successful proms and weddings, things like that, surfing around. But at the end of the day, it was kind of like, hey, we could be riding around real clean. It's going to hit a lot of our profit. Or we could just stick to this model of this car here is going to bring in 2 to 3 times of what we're paying for.
Right, right.
And so
it's the turn, right? You got to work the turn, right?
And like any markets change.
Yeah.
So when we got in 2021, it was easy to get a car back then.
Yep.
It was super easy.
Because nobody was buying them.
Nobody was buying them. And so they were loving us. They were coming in, grabbing cars, giving us great deals. And by 2023, the market started to shift. And we found ourselves kind of like, hey, we got to rethink our strategy here. And so from there, we realized, like, the economy car is the reason why these dealers have majority, or these rental car agencies have majority economies.
Right.
And it's no different with us. And so we started to scale back about a year ago, and we've gone completely just economies. Like, we want the luxury cars, we'll get them ourselves.
Right.
But for the business itself, we found a lot of success just sticking with that economy market.
Right.
And boom. And so that business has pretty much self-sustained itself. We've been able to pull out of the weeds.
Yep.
Systems in place to where, for the most part, we don't even really see our clients. They come, they book the cars are ready for them. They come, they drop them,
boom,
get them flipped, and the next client comes.
Don't overthink it, right?
Yeah,
right.
Keep it simple.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Be excellent, but keep it simple.
Exactly. Right. And don't get in the way. Yeah. Right. Like, I think so many of us just want to kind of overmanage, right? When we think we need to like really jump in, like, no, just wait, got to assess what else is going on in the marketplace. To your point, right? Like, there's a lot of data out there, right? I mean, there are some big players in that rental car market, right? So let's not think that we got all the answers, right? Yeah. Let's leverage those pieces, right? Exactly. So well done.
No, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Then I on the flip side of JQLR, that's the company we've been talking about, I have essentially a consulting brand called Hyper Focus Consulting. Started that off in 2020.
Wait, are you hyper focused? Is that where that came from?
No. So, well,
I love it. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Hybrid. Love it.
Hybrid. So the idea here is the same way that we're kind of talking about the intersection of civic duty, business, and philanthropy. Hybrid Focus Consulting meets at the intersection of nonprofit and for-profit business.
Love it.
Right.
Love
and
it.
So what I found is, and that's why it's called hybrid focus, because we focus on both for-profit and nonprofit. And so what I came to realize in 2020, you had a lot of great brands out there that struggled with the pivot from being in person to being
completely
virtual.
Right.
And I remember my first paid gig was supporting it was a nonprofit. They were trying to do a webinar and they did not know how to use Zoom. And they had a booking agency that was helping them out. And, they were like, well, we'll just get somebody to kind of operate this platform. And so they literally hired me just to be the captain of the Zoom at that time. And I'm like, I hadn't really used Zoom as much, but like, it's a platform. Like,
right. I think I can do this, right?
So I get on, and I'm thinking like, based on the number that I was getting paid, I was like, well, I'll just buy webinar access for a month, do my own thing, get a couple of rips, teach myself,
right?
Take a gamble on me, right? And it went great, and I was like, I'm like, man, I can really do this, but not to mention that this came probably a year and a half, like into me starting it. The idea essentially when I first started it was to help folks just transition. And, I was helping folks. I was doing seminars for families. Right. I was doing, all these different things. And I remember that first time somebody was like, well, what's your rate? And
like, wait, what? Wait, you're willing to pay me?
Yeah. And a lot of it, again, had just been the consistency of me, building the brand, putting, staying true to it, posting a little bit, letting folks know like, hey, if you need support, reach out. And that first time, I remember calling my brother like, hey, man, they're asking me my rate, kind of want to know how to have this conversation. And
it's good to have someone in the family, right?
It's good.
Liddell's got the answer,
good.
right?
He's got the answer. And so he told me, and I put it out there. And I mean, from then on, I've now supported a lot of different organizations.
In so many varied ways. That's what I'm impressed with, right? And again, you keep showing up. So, of course, people are going to gravitate to you because you're present in the moment. You keep showing up. You keep bringing something extra. You're adding value each time. And it's great. Like, whether it's a strategic plan, whether it's facilitating a meeting, I mean, you're doing all of those pieces. So it's really great. I love it.
No, I enjoy it. But it goes back to, remember, that problem solving,
right? Right.
So those hours upon hours of making me sit at that table, I get founders, they can't figure it out. And it's like, okay, let's just go to the drawing board. Like, let's step by step this thing out. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen with founders and leaders of their own companies is they overthink it a lot of times, and they forget about the basics. They like have all these like, oh, well, I want to do that, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I'm like, what is the mission? Let's pause for a second. What is the most plausible next step to get towards that outcome?
Right.
And I think when you don't have one of the 48 laws of power, Robert Greene, you have to begin with the end in mind.
Absolutely.
You have to know what your end game is here. And I think that's the difference between what I've seen in JQLR at first versus what I've seen in my consulting. Because I knew what the end goal was for my consulting, but I knew that I'm setting myself up for retirement.
Right.
If I can put in 20 years and do good work from a consulting side, I can retire and I can do work as I please with this.
Absolutely.
It was very clear to me.
Right.
We started JQLR because we like cars.
Right.
It was like we didn't have a clear sight of like, hey, what do we want this to look like in 30 years? It was just like, oh, this will work.
Let's ride the wave. We'll enjoy it, right?
And so we had to pivot a lot quicker than what we thought because it was like our game plan was just based on the now and not for the later.
Right.
Where this, I really was very clear about this is what I'm doing this for. This is why I'm setting it up. Totally. And so it allowed me to stay directly in the lane that I'm supposed to be in.
But what great experience you have from JQLR to share with the folks that you're consulting with, right? Like if you're not clear, you got to be able to pivot, right? And you may be clear, but you're still going to have to pivot at some point. Something's going to enter the market. Something's going to get in your way as you're navigating whatever it is, and you're like, what do I do next, right? And if you're not kind of confident in what you're building, it's really easy to get off track.
Yeah, I totally agree, and the why has to be beyond financial gain.
Absolutely. That can't be the motivator, right? I hear a lot of people in whatever medium you're interested in or whatever, social media you're on, it's so easy to just get rich quick, right?
Yep.
In quotes.
Yep.
I still waiting to meet that person who got rich quick, right?
It's still trying to, and still trying to meet the person who got rich without making mistakes or having some failure along the way.
Totally.
And so it goes hand in hand, right?
Right.
And so I think for me, that was one of the things that I had to learn, that businesses serve more than just gaining revenue. And, there's so many different ways that you can leverage a good business.
Right. It's that intersection that we were talking about, right? It's how do we leverage this on behalf of not only our employees, but the greater community, right? And how do we build that in a way that is sustainable and kind of attracts folks to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you start telling the story, and you've just shared such great stories today that you're moving the needle, right? And folks get it, so they want to be part of that. And of course, why if I had a fourth grader, a third grader, rising fourth grader, I'd be knocking on your door every day, like, get me into that program. I need my child to be in that program, to be exposed to all of those things that you've described today. It's really phenomenal.
No, I appreciate that. And one of the things that I used to stress, and I still do stress with parents, we cannot depend on public education alone to bridge the gap for our children. Like, we have to step in and add different, things to it, right?
Right.
Like, it's a path, but it also has to be supplemented.
It's so well said. Absolutely, right? It's the level, right? It'll level the playing field, but to your point, we want more than just level, right? We want more for these kiddos. Yeah. We want more for these students and families and communities. So we're gonna make that happen, and so proud of everything that you've done and all the work you're doing. And thanks for joining us on this podcast that we're creating. So grateful for you and grateful for the work you're doing.
No, glad to support. And
before we wrap up this great episode, and Quentin, thanks for joining us. I just want to really kind of dive a little bit deeper into kind of how businesses, kind of getting back to that intersection that we talked about before, right? Business, philanthropy, civic engagement. How can a business leader, how can an owner get engaged with the Academy Group? And what might that look like? And how will that impact the students that you support?
Absolutely. So there's a variety of ways that they can give back in a sense. And so, of course, we are working to get these young people prepared for the industry, right? And there's 5 industries that we've identified that we do what we call a pre-professional pathway. Those industries are technology, healthcare, finance, consulting, strategy, and then entrepreneurship, of course.
So good.
And so the idea here is that starting in 7th grade, kids do what we call a pre-professional pathway survey course, where they get introduced to all 5 of these different industries. And we have industry leaders come in. So last year we had PwC come out. We had GI Stone come out, Bank of America come out.
Great.
Amongst others. And they came and they actually interacted with the kids, and they talked about their day-to-day, and they gave them like small little workshops around what it is that they do, and it gave kids an understanding of like, okay, this is what it might be like to be in finance.
Right.
And so then 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, they're exploring those different industries a lot more, with entrepreneurship kind of being mixed in through each year.
Sure.
But they're diving in a whole year in finance, a whole year in tech, a whole year in healthcare. And so industry leaders in those areas, one, can not only come out and engage in those different types of sessions,
right,
but also there's opportunity for internships, because as kids are going
huge
into 12th grade, we want to make sure that 100% of our young people have internships over the summer. So there's a variety of ways. 2 Saturdays out of the year, we do career speaker series where industry leaders come out, they can speak. And so also, as well as, we want to teach our young people how to network. Right? Hey, this is how you dress for a networking event. This is your elevator pitch.
This is how you shake a hand.
Exactly.
Right?
And then we bring out those industry leaders. They're able to engage, and those leaders can give direct feedback to those young people. And so I would say the best way to get involved with that is just follow the Academy Group on LinkedIn.
That's so great.
Essentially, we're posting all of these things up, and
right,
so folks can definitely dive in and figure out where is the best place for them to contribute.
That's so great. And are the students selecting kind of the area that they're interested in, or are the Academy Group team also saying, gosh, you know what? Quentin would be really good in this. RJ would be really good in that. And let's kind of direct them in those areas.
So for the entry, when they're doing the survey series, they're going to get a touch of everything.
Right.
But then over the next few years, everyone is immersing into that one industry. And so at 12th grade, they do the exit survey.
Nice.
That's where you're kind of spending a little bit more time. Like, over this time, I'm really kind of thinking I'm leaning towards finance, or I'm really leaning towards healthcare.
Right.
And so they get an opportunity to kind of immerse themselves a little bit more in the industry of choice.
Right. That's so great. And helping them really see what this could look like, right? And it's to your point earlier, right? If we were only here at this intersection, right, the physical intersection where we are, and I've never been downtown, or I've never been somewhere seeing this experience,
right?
How would I know what that is, right?
And another one of the things that we have done that has gone over well is we do pop-ups at different industries or different companies. So our portfolio companies, Cleveland Avenue and Chicago Fundamental Investment Partners, they have been very huge there. Yep. And so
nice partners.
They
well
open up
done,
their doors. They open up their doors each year, and typically days when kids are out of school. So like the next CPS out day is September 26th. We're taking kids to Augustana College. They're doing a college tour.
So great.
So we utilize those days, and we come out and we check out different facilities. So last year, PwC joined in. And so we leverage our families who are also professionals. And so one of our parents is so great. She's a director over at PwC, opened up the doors. Kids came in, learned a little bit more about finance. And so those are areas where definitely if a industry leader is looking how to get involved with a nonprofit, especially one like us, this would be a great way to do so.
Right. And I love the idea of following on LinkedIn, but also, what's your website, Q? What is the Academy Group? Not one of your other gigs, right?
theacademygroup.com. Yep.
That's what I thought.
So,
I was going to say that, but then I thought maybe is the in there or not? So yeah,
absolutely.
That's good stuff. That's so good. So so obviously, your leadership, your team is really engaged on so many levels within the civic community as well, right? I mean, I see via LinkedIn and other places, the Academy Group is present in so many of these rooms, right? It's so important to be in the room, right? And so speak a little bit about how those connections at your level just really benefit the students, because you're bringing your experiences back to them.
Absolutely. Well, a huge part of our program is outsourced, right? And so our business, our advising curriculum, all of that is done in-house, but we do consult, right? So, it's hard to put on a course about 5 different industries without the industry experts.
Absolutely.
So we do consult various industries to get input on like, hey, what are the key things we want kids to know at this age? And then as former educators who have, wrote curriculum and do lesson planning, we're able to then take that language, codify it in a way that makes sense for that particular age group. But there's a lot of opportunity for consulting there, but also like going all the way back into the elementary space, the enrichments that I spoke of.
Right.
Like having folks who have STEM opportunities, folks who play instruments, folks who do different types of professional curating like the sewing or like the pottery, things of that sort. So there's always places for programs that are not necessarily in the corporate industry or businesses that are not in that space, like with the food truck. So we're always looking for new food trucks to do our 5th grade summer course with.
Right.
And so there's a variety of opportunities there within that industry. The restaurant industry, like we have to feed our kids.
Right.
So, I use the original House of Pancakes for breakfast in the morning. I use a variety of vendors for lunch.
Right.
And so this is a place where if you're a restaurant owner and you're like, you know what, I would love to cater for the Academy Group. Like we have the budget to be able to support that. So there's a variety of ways we can intersect with various organizations and companies. I think one of the last things that we're doing is we have what we call the AG Entrepreneurship Incubator.
Ooh.
And so
Can I be a part of that?
Man, please. We have a space within our headquarters in which each season we kind of bring in a new batch of entrepreneurs who are trying to grow their businesses in ways that could support the Academy Group or our young people.
Great.
So they get a place to kind of work, and we take them through a variety of different professional development. So different folks come in and they speak to them. And
so great.
So it helps provide a place for young entrepreneurs to not only get professional development, but to network and grow their business and kind of get a place where they can kind of get a gig.
What a unique energy too,
yes.
right? And versus I'm in my own garage or wherever trying to get something done. No, let's bring them all together, right? And really foster that. And yeah, that's, I mean, why am I surprised that the Academy Group is doing that? Of course you guys are, right?
Yeah. So it's been, great initiatives all the way around, all the way to top of our president. Our president is a visionary, man.
Pretty amazing.
Shane
amazing
Evans,
guy, right?
Else. Yeah. And so he's not going to, he gives us the vision like, hey, this is what we need to execute on. But at the same time, he's going to ensure that he's bringing us the resources to get that job done. And so it's good to have leadership that is going to push you, but also back you at the same time.
Right.
And so there's never a dull moment. There's always a new challenge to be faced. And that's one of the things that I have enjoyed, kind of coming from an organization that was in startup phase and we're now out of startup phase, but we're now in expansion phase. There's always something new. So like, even though it's like, I know all there is to know over the last 7 years, there's still a lot I don't know and learn.
Right.
And so that's what makes the job even more exciting, because there's always something new that's going to come down.
That's so great. And again, it speaks to who you are, but also the organization, right? Mm-hmm. That you are lifelong learners and you're striving to get better, right? And isn't that what we want for our own kids,
Absolutely.
right? And the individuals that we support, absolutely, right? We want them to find their path and find their, in my mind, passion is overrated, right? And it's something that, you want to find your passion, but ultimately you want to be able to make a difference, mm-hmm. right? And I think that's where, again, from the cheap seats, I've been able to watch you just continue to grow and build and continue to just make a difference. And kudos to you. Kudos to the Academy Group. You guys are crushing it. And it's just really fun to just shine a light on all of that and know that the value add is so deep in the communities you're supporting. And we're gonna see the fruits of these labors for years to come. So well done.
No, thank you. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. And, this is funny. I was telling someone like, man, all these young people coming up, and I'm like, in 15 years or so, I'm like, my network of professionals is going to be insane. I'm
exactly.
like, I'll be able to sit back and say, hey, if you need a little consultant work
exactly.
here, like, hey,
exactly.
pull me on.
Exactly. Get a few business cards ready, right? Exactly. Ready to roll. So, because they're going to be doing amazing things, right? They are, right? Yeah. Talk about a lot of founders. You're creating, a lot. So really great. And in the meantime, all those businesses you're partnering with, they've got just a cadre of folks that would add so much value to their work teams, right? And
yep. I mean, you got the old iron sharpens iron, and so when you have folks coming together who are, dedicated to whatever their purpose may be, they're gonna do what it takes to get things done. And so it's hard to be still when you're in a group of people who's constantly moving.
Right.
And even when you do have to be still, you have a entourage of folks who you can observe and see what they're doing that's helping them be successful.
Right,
and it essentially will keep you going.
Right.
And so that is very important. You are, what is it saying around your net worth is your network?
Yeah.
And so
amen.
You have to surround yourself with the folks who are going to keep pushing you.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Right.
Otherwise you'd be sedentary.
Right, totally. And let's go back to that natural law, right? A body in motion stays in motion, right? And don't we all strive for that, right? And so let's keep going. Let's, we can't rest on our laurels. We got to keep going, right? Because this work is way too important,
it's
right?
Too important.
And what's on the line is can really change the trajectory for young people today and well into the future. So appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. Really grateful for Quentin Harris from the Academy Group to join us today. Again, my name is RJ McMahon. I'm with Oak Leyden. I have the honor and privilege of serving as CEO. And thank you for joining us. And keep up the good work, Q.
Man, appreciate it. You too.